On today's show, we'll meet Leslie B., a healthcare executive who's quickly becoming a trusted voice in the true crime community. From the Dan Markel case to building a YouTube channel dedicated to justice, she's sharing the stories that matter. You won't want to miss this conversation. Leslie, welcome to the show. I am so thrilled to have you here today.
Thanks for inviting me, Christy. It's a pleasure to meet another Tennessee lady.
Yeah. So let's start there. So I discovered your channel recently, like I'm talking in the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
through Prof. Joe, who we
hmm
all absolutely adore. Like I love her, adore her. I discovered her through Surviving the Survivor, love Joel, so
Yeah.
it's all like a big family community. And the first time that I heard you talk, I said, she sounds like me. And so
hmm
then that's when I asked you, where are you from? And you said Tennessee. And I was like, me too. So it felt really nice to have somebody who sounds like me on YouTube because that is a huge thing with me, is my accent and stuff. Like it gets
Right.
pointed out everywhere I go, all over the country, it gets pointed out. So,
Yeah. I remember when you commented, you're like, where are you from? I said, Tennessee. And you said, me too. And
yeah.
it's interesting because some people are like, I love like hearing your Southern accent. And then some other people think, oh, it doesn't sound that Southern. It's just different to different people. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a born and raised Tennessean.
Wow. Yeah. I came from West Virginia. I transplanted down here almost a decade ago. So, anyway, but so like I said, I've been binge watching. I think I found your channel. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. I was in Beverly Hills about 3 weeks ago, and I think that's when I found you. And so
It
I've
was
just been binge watching. And I tell you, I love your coverage of the Dan Markel case. Let me go back. So you are a true crime YouTuber. Which, listen, who is not addicted to true crime right
right.
now? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds weird to say that. It's like sometimes some people are like true crime, but I really started it from the Dan Markel case.
Mhm.
I was discovered the YouTube world about in 2023 after Charlie Adelson's conviction. And I
Mhm.
would be like, oh, I wish people would make a video like this or like that.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I can do it. And
Yeah.
it just evolved.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have the personality. I mean, you just have, and I will tell you this. So your voice is very soothing. And I find myself every night, and I hope this doesn't sound mean, but every night I put on your 3 hour and 21 minute Jeffrey LaCasse video, and I fall asleep to that
Oh,
because your voice and his voice is very soothing. So,
that's oh, well, I like that. You know what I use to fall asleep a lot because I find it soothing is Georgia Cappleman.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've done that
So, and
too.
it's almost too like that little bit of that hum in the background
Mhm.
of a courtroom,
Yeah.
live feed.
Yeah.
But I've had some other people say that they're like, "Oh, it's soothing."
Hmm.
And it wasn't until just not too long ago, I hated hearing my voice. So I've been in sales pretty much ever since I got out of college.
Mhm.
And a lot of times you do these role plays and all the sales training, and they would like video record you because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
And I would just cringe. But I
Yeah.
guess now I'm older. I'm like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah. And you know what? Everybody, like, no matter where I go, people, they do love the Southern accent. They say it sounds very comforting. And that's something that I had to get used to because, like I said 3 weeks ago when I was in Beverly Hills, I was out of place. But, people were like, I love your accent. I'm like, thank you. And it's my voice, it's our voice. We gotta, we can't do anything about it. So you said you've been in sales forever.
Mhm.
So you do have a real job outside of YouTube.
I
So what
do.
do you do? You don't have to tell us where, but what do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. So I'm a senior director of sales and marketing. It's in senior living. So it's that healthcare segment. There's a ton of healthcare, obviously, in Nashville. But before that, I did some like pharmaceuticals and medical devices. And I was approached, and somebody said, we would love to talk to you about being sales director. And I kind of just found a passion for it. It is a stressful job. it's a lot of emotions. It's not just, dealing with a resident, you're dealing with families. It's all kinds of situations. I mean, a lot of people are in a crisis kind of,
Mhm.
or some people are just looking to move, or it's a recent widow. So I feel like a therapist a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I think that is a lot of my draw to quote unquote true crime, is because it's just the psyche behind things.
Mhm.
And when you work with the public, you work with all kinds of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm a senior sales and marketing director. So I work with the families. I also help train some other sales directors and things
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
I love working with someone who has a desire to learn, and I just
Mhm.
share what works for me, and everybody's got their own style.
Sounds like a fun job. I've been in sales. I was in sales most of my life, and I actually went to college. Well, just recently, almost finished my college. I'm working on my PhD right now. But
Awesome.
anyway, in psychology. And so what I do for the last several years has been like therapy.
Mhm.
But I'm really good at, but I always say sales is psychology too. So, but
It is.
I've always been really good at sales. But do your
Mhm.
colleagues know what you do? Did they know you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's a great question. At first, I didn't really tell a lot of people. And originally, my quote unquote channel, which really just started 15 months ago, was called
Mhm.
True Crime in a Minute. And it was True Crime in a Minute with Leslie B. And then I just I missed it. So when I would be in chat, people would say true crime in a with my name,
Yeah.
and I missed having my name, and I thought, well, what if one day I don't want to cover this kind of stuff? So I changed it to This is Leslie B. um, and I didn't tell a lot of people, and not even like my friends, because I would watch a lot of YouTube tutorials on how you build a channel, and
Mhm.
a lot of them are like, this is not for your friends and your family, right? Because you don't want somebody just clicking on a video to see you for 2 seconds and then clicking off, because it hurts the algorithm. And a lot of them just don't really get it. Now, as things have evolved, I've shared more, and actually, some residents, one of them is very well known, retired psychiatrist. He was a forensic psychiatrist, and he had testified in over 300 trials. So I interviewed him on the channel. So then he invited me. He said, I want you to come present to the residents about your channel. So now everybody knows. And they're all like, we want to follow it. But they
Mhm.
call it a podcast, but
Yeah.
that's fine,
Yeah. That people call my show podcast too. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't care what you call it, just watch.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't normally, like, lead with it so much. But then when I just recently went to CrimeCon, I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is Leslie B. Yeah, that's just what you do full time." I'm like,
Yeah.
"No." But, I would love to do something like this full time.
Oh
I
yeah.
love it.
Well, you know what? Keep it up because your channel has grown really faster than any channel I've ever seen. You have over 12,000 subscribers in like
Mhm.
a year. Like
Yeah,
you said, I mean, and that, I don't know if you realize that, but that's fast.
yeah.
That's really
Thank you. I appreciate it. It took off, and last year, right before the end, my goal was to hit 10,000 before the new year, before
fast.
we hit January 1 of 2026. So I started reaching out to people thinking, well, and I think that's part of that sales being like, you don't know until you ask, you got to ask for the deal. And so I emailed people that I would like to talk to, and some were some bigger YouTube
Mhm.
people, and people were so gracious and accepting, and that really helped give me exposure and grow fast. But I had one guest, and he said, to hit 10,000 like in your first year,
Yeah.
that's really good. And then it kind of slowed down a little bit this year. I had to change some things for the algorithm, but it is not as easy as people think.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I
Yeah,
know. I
I
know.
know.
People think that what I do is easy. And I mean, listen, okay, I always say I'm not, putting hot tar on the roof in the 90-degree sun. It's not hard that way. But, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then if you get a guest who doesn't want to talk, you got to carry both. You got
You're
to carry
right.
yours and theirs, and you got to be thinking. And, I have questions that I ask, but if the conversation takes a turn, you got to listen and keep up, plus think
That
about the next thing.
That's a great point, and to
Yeah.
that point, I actually got to interview Ruth Markel last night, and I'm gonna
Oh,
air
wow.
that this coming weekend, on Saturday. And so we had talked ahead of time about what to ask, because
Yeah.
you want to be respectful and everything. And so I had my list of questions, but I also was listening. And it is, but see, that's where that sales director experience comes
Mhm.
in because yes, there are things that I want to accomplish in every appointment, right? That I need to learn about a
Mhm.
family or a resident, where their needs are. But if I'm just going through and checking a box, getting the questions, I could totally miss what's really going on.
Mhm.
So I think that's what just makes it a good fit, but it is a skill set, and Joel makes it look easy.
That's, you know what? I was just getting ready to say that when you were talking, I thought, man, but he was a news guy for years. So
Mhm.
I'm sure that helps. Me and you, I'm sure that you don't have, I have no broadcast journalism background at all. I
Mhm.
just sat down one day, my friend in Dallas said, what happened was I had breast cancer in 2020,
Oh.
stage 3, and I wrote a book. And we met, me and her met on a Facebook breast cancer support group. And
Mhm.
she was like, "Hey, come down and be on my show and share your story." And I was like, "Wow, okay." And that was in May of 21. And she said, "You're really good at this. You should have your own show." And I was like, "Girl, like I was scared to death I was sweating the whole time I was on her show." I never even thought about doing anything like this. And she kept on, she was like, "Christy," and it took her the rest of the year to convince me to do this. And then when I did, I really enjoyed it because I love talking to people. I love
Mhm.
hearing people's stories, especially like the feel good stories and stories like people like you who didn't have a background in this, but you
Right.
have a passion for it,
Right.
So yeah. And you do it
Yeah,
because you want to.
that was a lot because there was so much on YouTube. I thought, does anybody need another true crime channel? But like I said, I just like there would be certain videos I wanted. And yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have law enforcement experience, but people kind of like that perspective. They're like, yeah, she's saying what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Because
And
you're us. You are us. You're just a regular person like us.
right, exactly. And actually, when I was in high school or even middle school, I used to love, this is probably more elementary, Jane Pauley on the Today Show. Do you remember Jane Pauley?
Yes, I do.
And I always loved her. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I want to be a TV news anchor or something
Mhm.
like that. And then I don't really know like when it all kind of changed. I think I was worried I would get like a bad market and be stuck in the middle of some small town
Yeah.
because that's how you gotta move up. And
Mhm.
this was before the internet and all that. So it was just very different. And so I got kind of scared, but now I wish I had pursued it. But yeah, I was scared to death my first YouTube live, and it's funny to just see, like, the progression.
Mhm.
I dreaded it. I mean, like, my heart would be pounding, and I couldn't wait to be done with it, but now it's almost like I would love to go live every day.
Yeah, I think that would be really hard too because you're live. So, like here
Yeah.
where I film, so we have an editor that edits all the mistakes out. But
Mhm.
you're live, and if you mess up, you mess up, and then you got to read the chat. You got to remember what you're going to
Mhm.
say. You got to answer people. And I'm like, I don't know how y'all do it. I really don't know how you do it, especially to stay on for several hours. I would be crazy by the time it was
Yeah.
over.
That's why a lot of times I'll make, and this is kind of, again, maybe a corporate background, having a PowerPoint. I use Google Slides just to have those talking points.
Mhm.
And of course, a lot of times, we'll play a video and then talk about it, but it is a lot to like hit the chat. And
Mhm.
I like to be interactive with the chat
Yeah.
because a lot of people are like, I feel like I've just sat down with a girlfriend. And that's
Right.
what I want. I want
Yeah.
people to feel that way, but I want to acknowledge the chat as well.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm like, Joel has it easy because he has his wife in the back doing all that for him.
Yeah.
I'm like making my thumbnails, I'm doing all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, but it is fun to go live. And it's just cool to connect, not with just people in Tennessee or around the country, but
Mhm.
there's people from all over the world. People are
Yeah.
like, hi, South Africa here. Hi, Australia.
Yeah.
Like,
I know
whoa.
that's wild that, it's so wild. I see Joel, he always points out, like, we got people in the house from such and such. I'm like, that is wild how, I love
Mhm.
it because Dan Markel, God rest his soul, he has brought together a world of people who really care about him and want to see justice for him. And I've noticed on your channel, what makes your channel stand out to me is that you're focused on the victim and the victim's families, and you
Mhm.
approach it with such empathy, and you don't, there's some people on YouTube who do true crime to exploit the crime, get the
Mhm.
views, get the clicks, get the money,
Mhm.
whatever. But
Mhm.
your channel feels different. It feels like you're really concerned about the victims. Like you said, you had Ruth Markel on. You'll have
Yeah.
that'll air this weekend. But how do you keep from saying, well, if I do the salacious stuff, I can grow faster or make more money?
Yeah, like clickbait and stuff.
Yeah, clickbait. Yeah.
So, I will tell you just a little bit of a personal story, but it is important because it's really what makes makes me tick, I guess you could say. So I have 2 children. So one, he's 24, my son, and then I had a daughter in 2004, and she passed away in 2006. So she was 2 and a half, and it was not a victim of a crime. She had just had a horrible disease. She had a severe seizure disorder, and I mean it was a living hell on earth. But I learned to really be an advocate for her, right? I mean, you're managing 13 different doctor specialties, and all of a sudden you're just thrown into this world that you didn't ask God for. And you're wondering why. And so I'm not trying to say I'm a victim, but it's you identify a little bit with how maybe somebody feels or something happens to them. If a loved one is murdered or whatever happens, I just feel like I have like an empathy for that because
Yeah.
like life just changed in an instant.
Yeah.
And I remember when I would see Dan Markel case, I think it was like on 2020. It was before Charlie got arrested because they were like
Mhm.
approaching him in a parking lot. And then they start telling the story and then how Wendy had alienated those boys and everything.
Mhm.
And I started thinking, God, so not only did Ruth lose her son, so I know the pain of losing a child, but now she's like basically lost her grandchildren. And I think I just really connected. And it is like we need to tell the victim stories. Now, that to be said, you're right. I can do a live and maybe Dan Markel case. I mean, that draws a lot of people. But
Mhm.
let's say, like Ellen Greenberg, have you heard of that case?
Mhm.
It was ruled as unaliving, but it was like a stabbing of over 20 times. I'm like, I don't think somebody did that to
Oh,
themselves.
I think was that up north, like up and
Yeah,
down Main Street?
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, so something like that, I mean, you could put in a title there's certain things that are gonna draw more people. It's just like the name Wendy. I mean, that draws so many more than just, like, if I put Luis Rivera in a
Yeah.
title or something like
Yeah.
that. It does. It is that clickbait,
Mhm.
but I really wanna tell the stories of the victims. I've been following the George Pino trial recently in Miami.
Mhm.
He, was driving a boat with a bunch of teenage girls in 2022, and it crashed, and one has a TBI. I mean, she's in a wheelchair. Life changed forever. Another one died. And that trial has just been heart-wrenching for me. And so I, like, looked into I'm like, who are these girls that were hurt and killed and been sharing their stories? And it's just, like, being that voice for that victim, just like I felt like I was the voice for my daughter, Morgan,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I totally get it. Yeah, I get it. It makes sense. And I love that. I love that about your channel. I mean, I guess being on that side of it, well, you were on this side of it first. You can tell who's in it for the right
Mhm.
reasons and who's not. There's one really big YouTuber. I'm not going to say her name, but she's really big. And I've heard that she has all the research done for her and she just
Mhm.
sits down and tells the story.
Yep.
And I mean, I can tell when I watch her occasionally. I can tell when I watch her, she's she's flat.
Mhm.
It's almost like she just wants to tell a story, get her money, and go home. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I don't like that. I
I
like
don't
people that
either.
care about somebody.
And I think that's is what makes it unique because somebody was teasing me like, "Are you gonna get a booth at CrimeCon?" I said, "No, I'm a one-woman show. I would have to man that booth. I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
But I think that's what puts so much skin in the game because I'm researching, I'm doing FOIA requests,
Yep.
I am watching other interviews, and even, like, before like this, I'm sure you prepared a lot, right, to talk to
Yeah.
me. And because I know when I've interviewed people before, there was one person that I interviewed last year, and he's like, "You did a lot of research." But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to go into something blind. But that is what makes us passionate about it. Because if you're just kind of, oh, I've got some stats on you, it's just not as interesting.
Yeah. And if you research and you get to know, or you get to know who the person was. Like when I first heard about Dan Markel, it was many years ago. I think it was on Dateline, probably right after he got killed. And I
Uh-huh.
just remember thinking, wow, that's really bad. And then I heard a few, like several years later, I don't know how many years later it took them to arrest the first person. I was like, wow,
Mhm.
like 2 or 3 years or something.
Yeah, 2
And so
years.
I have followed it like that over the years.
Mhm.
But when Charlie got arrested, that's when I really first started watching. I was
Mhm.
like, wow. And I tell you, like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm intrigued. I hate to say like I'm addicted to that story, but I'm intrigued by that story because I want every last person to get
Mhm.
arrested. So, I can't wait for Wendy. Like, come
I know.
on, arrest
I
her
know.
already. Do you think she'll be arrested or?
Well, that's what I was talking with Prof. Joe about that night. I just adore her. Prof. Joe was just brilliant.
She can.
I think I do. I don't think it's gonna be the time frame we think. I think it could be a different prosecutor. I mean, I love Georgia, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I'm sure they're worn out with this. They arrested Charlie in 2022, and they just got done with Donna basically in 25. Like, that's a lot of Adelsons.
Yeah.
Um, Wendy, she was smart. She separated herself. I have to believe there's other evidence. What I don't understand is why they don't just charge her with conspiracy,
Yeah.
because I think there's definitely plenty there. I mean, if they're trying to go for a murder one, I don't know. But then there's that part of me that's like, well, if they had the evidence, wouldn't they arrest her? But I do think the FBI is way more involved, and they go on their own timeline. I don't know if you followed the Karen Reed case at all
Yes.
out of
Oh
Boston.
my
I know
gosh,
I'm not
yes.
going to get into that on either side because I know it's a hot topic with people, but the FBI was involved with that, and
Mhm.
they go on their own timeline. Like, nobody's going to be bossing them around. So I do think she'll be arrested. I just don't know. I don't even think it's going to be this year.
Yeah.
But I talked to Vinnie Politan at CrimeCon, and I got a little bit that I recorded with him on my iPhone. But he said before he even started, he's like, somebody in Tallahassee's told him it's coming.
I hope so because I feel like that will be the last.
Oh,
I don't like, to me, Harvey, whatever. He'll probably die before he would ever get arrested
exactly.
anyway. But I feel like if they get her and put her
Hmm.
in jail, for me, it will be finished. It'll never be finished for Ruth and is his name Phil? I forgot.
Phil, yeah. Hmm.
It'll never be over for them. They're
Yeah.
they're forever without a child. But
Hmm.
you know, they deserve every last person to be in jail who hurt or was behind the murder of their child. It's
Hmm.
just like, and let me tell you something about her. I look at her and I admire her strength. I would never, I
Oh,
hope and pray, Lord, never let me go through what she went through or what you went through. But
hmm.
I admire her strength to be able to show up at the trials and to be able to give her a victim impact statement, to be able to write a book, and to
Hmm.
help other people. I mean, who can do that after the loss of a child? I don't know how anybody gets up and breathes the next day after losing
Yeah.
a child. So that's
And
that's strength.
yeah, and she really turned it into a purpose. I mean, when the unveiling, so I've now started a book club. So we covered the unveiling, and now we're doing extreme punishment. And she says, I mean, she wrote that book to help others so that they too can know how to learn the justice system and to write a victim impact statement. And so I think I identify a lot with that because, like, when I had a sick child, there are so you meet other parents with sick children, right? Because you're at the hospital all the time, and you just you kind of meet your own little community. And there are some people that just choose to live on that pity party, and I just never wanted to be that person. Um, and I feel like that's where I can identify with Ruth a lot. I mean, and it has been awesome connecting with her because I originally had reached out just like, "Hey, I'm gonna cover your book. Are you okay if I read some sentences and things?" And she's a lovely lady. She's so
Yeah.
smart, and I agree. She's got a major strength, and I
Yeah.
think she's honoring her son's life. I think he's very proud looking
Yeah,
down
I
on her.
think so too. I really
Mhm,
do. And I was going to say, she seems like she is very kind. I don't know, she just looks
mhm.
like she would be really kind. So,
Yeah, she's smart.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, I was going to ask you, I was wondering this because I thought, I know, like, this is all I do. Like, well, I go to school too. But, how do you what keeps you motivated after you
Mm.
work a 9 to 5? You're gone
Yeah,
all day. I'm assuming you work 5 days a week. You're gone
yeah,
all day. How do you stay motivated to then do a 3 hour live or
yeah.
put out videos?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. Um, so I'm 52. So, when you get a little older, like sleeping and all that's not as easy as it once was. But I will tell you, so I have always been kind of a workaholic, for lack of a better term. And people were like, you got to learn to just like cut it off. Well, that's just not my personality. Women, we're wired differently anyway. I cannot just leave work and come home after I've just talked to somebody about their mom who's going to go on hospice, or you carry that burden. And I want to be kind of like the adult daughter that maybe some people don't have. And I
Mhm.
worked all during COVID, would help FaceTime because we couldn't let families in. And so I would constantly be either texting or emailing. I mean, I would get home and open my laptop and just keep on. And I thought, this really, I do need to disconnect. And what I found was, when I started this channel or making videos, it all kind of started after Charlie's conviction, or leading up to Donna's trial, I guess I should
Mhm.
say. And I'm like, I want to make these videos. And I just started teaching myself how to make them. I would watch YouTube tutorials. And I found it was the first time I was doing something where I wasn't thinking about work.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds, because for some people, I'm like, oh, it's therapeutic. And they're like, to talk about crime, but it's not that. It's just to be creative. I've always
Mhm.
been kind of a creative person.
Mhm.
And so it'd be like, I want to learn how to overlay. I want to learn how to do a text, and how do they do these, how do you make a thumbnail? And before you know it, like, you could have been working on something for 4 hours, and I thought it's been 30 minutes, but
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't thinking about work as much. So for me, it actually helps me relax, like to sit
Yeah.
down and to be creative.
Mhm.
Can I go live every night? No. I mean, last night I was really tired. I did one. But sometimes it's just like chatting on the phone with friends, but even now some of my friends are like, "Are you okay? You don't text as much."
Aw.
So, it's just, I don't know. It's just it's a way to relax, as
Yeah.
odd as that sounds.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's no schedule, and that's what I told myself. Like, I don't want to ever feel like I've got to go live. I've got to do
Mhm.
this, because if it becomes a burden, it's not fun
It's
for
not fun.
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I think Joel does a live every night at 7, I believe, or something, unless he's
yeah,
changed his schedule. It
but
was
that's his
like,
full time job.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so I'm like, how in the world? Like, because listen, there's some days I don't even want to look at another human or a computer screen or anything. And so, I'm like you, I don't put that eh, constraint or that burden on
yeah,
myself. I'm just like, if I want to do something, I'm like, I'm not going to commit. I can't commit. I'm even like that with my friends. I'm like, you can ask me to go somewhere that feels nice, but I'm not going
yeah,
to commit. If I get up
right,
that day and I want to go, I'll go. But if I don't get mad at me. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like, sometimes, like, I'll go live night after night. It also depends, like, what's going on. Like, this George Pino trial has been kind of fascinating. It wasn't one I even had on my radar, and then I started seeing stuff. I'm like, what is going on with this? But when I was talking about how it's harder to sleep, so what happens too sometimes, I wake up early, and it's like 5:15, and I don't need to get up then. And so I use CapCut is the
Mhm.
software or the app I use, and I have it on my laptop, but I have the app on my phone, and I'll just, like, wake up and think, "Oh, I should do a Luis Rivera short video," or something like the the blonde was Wendy, and like I'll
Mhm.
just think of things. And so I will kind of make it in the app there. I'll just kind of like lay in bed and make it. And then sometimes too, I'll make a several videos and I'll load them onto YouTube and I'll put them as unlisted.
Mhm.
And then that morning I'll change it to public.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because somebody was like, "How are you posting stuff in the middle of the day at your
Yeah.
job?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I work on that." But I used to do a lot of, like where I would pre-record a lot of videos and then I
Mhm.
would play them during a live, but I've just learned that's a lot of extra time. So you live and learn, but for me, it really is just a creative outlet.
Yeah, yeah. And when you find something that you love like that, it is
Mhm,
like therapy,
mhm,
it's like therapy. So, I mean, I love doing this. And it's the weirdest thing because after every show, especially if I'm at the studio, when I leave, I feel, and I know this sounds really weird, I feel this sort of like a rush, like a high or something. I'm like,
mhm.
whew, and it takes me a while after I get home to like come down off of that,
Yeah.
because it is because it is fun. It is so
Yeah,
fun.
that's true, and you can have, like, adrenaline and
Yeah,
everything else going. I
yeah.
agree, and, I did get a little, I don't like, so involved with Donna's first trial, and I think you said you were gonna go too.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yep.
so
And then they changed it. They moved it
I
up.
know. I
I was so
had
mad.
my bags packed. I had bought new sweaters because they say courtroom 3G is, like,
Mhm,
freezing. So I had bought, like, cardigans, and I had my bags packed, I had my hotel,
mhm.
and I was, like, 2 days from leaving. I had taken off work, and, when all that happened, Dan Rashbaum and everything, it was like it almost felt like a death, and
Yeah.
that sounds horrible. I was crying.
Mhm.
And my husband was like, "Leslie, this is not healthy." I'm like, "No," but, like, it felt like such a letdown. I was
Mhm.
really upset for,
Mhm.
like, 2 months. I
I
am
was
not gonna.
too. I was
Yeah.
too because I had told my friend is an attorney, and
Mhm.
I told her, I was like, Kathy, she's like, it's not too late. You can be a lawyer. I was like, girl, it is too late. That ship sailed. But I love it. I love the courts. I love that the
Yeah,
trials
it
and
is
stuff.
fascinating to learn the
Mm.
system, and, I recently got jury duty. I had never been summoned,
Ooh.
and I was summoned, so we have a federal courthouse in Nashville. So it was federal jury duty. So they call, like, I think it's 8 counties. And I'm like, "Oh my god, this is it." I was so excited. And my husband's like, "You gotta be the only woman in Tennessee excited about this." I said, "I don't know." So, the way it works with federal jury duty, you call starting every Monday of the whole week of March or the whole month of March, you call and it says whether or not you need to report. And I thought, March is probably a popular time for a trial, you know? And so I called and it said report tomorrow morning at 7:45 a.m. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. But then I got there and there were like 60 people, but I just didn't say much. Well, then I was chosen for the jury. And then when we went to deliberations, I'm like, we need a 4-person, and I would like to be that person. But it was cool because I had all this knowledge, and I didn't tell them that I followed YouTube stuff. I mean, it really wasn't relevant. I had never heard of this case. It was what we were talking about. It was a big drug deal in this federal case. But when we got back in the deliberation room, we were like deadlocked, and I was really devastated. And then, so I had known from watching other trials, I'm like, well, we need to write a note to the judge. I mean, this was after hours, and I wrote, we are at an impasse because I'd heard this on TV, or on YouTube. And so he's like, come back into the courtroom, and they're like, what's going to happen? I said, he's going to read us the Allen charge. And they're like, how do you know this? And that's exactly what he did, keep deliberating. But it ended up being a hung jury. So it was very disappointing. And I
Oh,
cried. Like
yeah.
as soon as I got to my car, it all just kind of hit.
Mhm.
Um, you don't really realize like what it does to somebody. And this was a drug deal, right?
Mhm.
I can't imagine like being in a murder
Yeah.
trial. That would be tough. But I felt silly, but I did. I burst into tears, but I got the experience, and I'll probably never get to serve on one again.
Yeah, I want to be on a jury so bad.
Mhm.
When I moved here, right when I moved here, I got called in the county that I used to live in, literally. And so I called them and I was like, hey, I moved to Sevier County, but
Mhm.
can I still do it over there? And they were like, no. And I was like, I've
No.
always wanted to be on a jury. Like, I will be 58 in September and I'm never going to be on a jury. And that's what
Yeah.
I want to do. I'm like, just somebody pick me. I think I'm going to go over to the courthouse tomorrow and say, can you just put my name in the hat, please?
I know. Well, you would think too, like where you are, it's not, well, maybe there's not as many trials or whatever, but I would think you would have a good chance of getting
Yeah,
one.
I know, but
Yeah.
I
It
don't
it just
know.
kinda came in the mail. I'll tell you what was weird though. There were 2 people that were there. They were young, I would guess in their 20s, and they were a couple that lived together, and they both got one.
Wow, that is weird.
So, of course, I mean, that's not gonna work. They were
Mhm.
trying hard, though. They wanted to be on it.
Yeah.
There were a
You
lot of people that were, like, trying hard. Basically, when the prosecutor and the defense attorney keep asking you questions and you go talk to the judge, like, they're thinking, "Uh-uh."
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Do you ever watch The Lawyer, Peter?
I used to watch him a lot.
Uh-huh.
I haven't as much lately. He just got so big, and that's one thing I like about smaller channels. Like, it's
Yeah.
nice to actually get to interact in the chat,
Yeah.
but all the times that I did watch him, never once did he address a question of mine or whatever, because it's
Yeah.
just so big.
Yeah.
But, he's got quite a business. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I
he's
was
doing
going to
very
say that he loves, because I was going to say you should go on his show because he loves it when people love to go for jury duty. He says
mhm.
it all the time. He's like, I love, to hear people say, I'd love to go to jury duty. So you would be a great guest for him to tell him,
Yeah,
like, hey, when's the jury
yeah.
duty? But yeah, that is like, I've noticed, I watch Carl Steinbeck a lot. He hasn't been live in
Oh,
a
yeah.
long time,
I
but
know, he hasn't.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he will read my questions, and I'm like, that
Mhm.
makes me feel good. Joel, he has so many people that he used to read my questions, but he's just got so big now that he just has so many people in chat
You
that
gotta do a super chat pretty much.
yeah, and I'm like, I ain't go, like I will give a super chat occasionally, but that's like
Mhm.
Emily D. Baker. I
Oh,
was with her since she had a few thousand. I've been a
mhm.
member there for years, and
You're
but
a law nerd?
now, yeah, but now,
I think she
I
is
just
amazing.
she is, but now she just her chat goes so fast that she can't see unless it's a super chat or a member milestone. So
Mhm.
yeah. So, but anyway,
Well, I keep hoping I'll bump into her because she lives near me.
oh, that yeah, because you both live around the same place. Listen, if I ever bumped into her, I would just die. I'd just be like, oh my God,
I
Ellie.
know everybody's like, "If you ever run into her, you have to go live immediately." And I'm like, "Well,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna, like, freak her out, you know?"
yeah, or like
I've
say at
thought
least let me get a selfie.
Yeah, I've thought about reaching out to her, but then I didn't wanna come across, like, stalkerish.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's kinda
I do. Mhm.
it's that fine line.
Yeah, it is. It is
Yeah,
because I'll tell you. So, like 3 weeks ago, when I was in California, before I went, I had seen this lady who played on Knots Landing, Terry Austin. She
uh-huh.
played Jill Bennett, the villain. Did you ever watch that show?
I mean, I remember like
Oh,
my
okay.
mom watching it, but I was a little young for it.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
God. So she played Jill Bennett, this evil villain who was on there for 4 years. Anyway, we loved to hate her. And I saw her on Donna Mills' podcast, and she said what she runs an animal shelter now in Beverly Hills, and I was like, could be in Beverly Hills. I'm gonna look her up. So I put it in my phone, and I was like, put a reminder, and I was like, look up Terry Austin's business, go see her, ask her to be on your show. And so I went and I saw my friends, and the next day I went to Santa Monica to take care of some business. And then when I got back, I put my backpack on and I walked like 15 minutes across town, and I went in the business, and there she sat, she spinned around, and I was like, oh my
Oh
God,
my gosh,
there's
she was
Terry.
there?
But I couldn't act that way, because I'm supposed to be a professional too. And
Right.
she goes, can I help you? And I was thinking, oh my God, you're Jill Bennett. But, I said, yeah, my name is Christy Hatfield. And, I have a talk show, the Christy Adams Show. And I started talking. I said, I would saw you on the podcast. I would love for you to be a guest. And I stood there with her for like 45 minutes and talked. And the whole time in my mind, I was like, I can't believe I'm with Terry Olsen.
Right.
But and then my friend said, did you get a selfie? And I was like, no, because she would have thought, oh, this is some stalker fan found me. I wanted her
Mhm.
to take me serious. And
Yeah. I get
Yeah,
that.
so I get that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
she was on with me on Monday and I told her about that. And she said, well, you could have got a picture, but you don't know. You don't know how they're going to react, you
Yeah,
know?
you don't know if you're gonna offend them. I mean, I did that at CrimeCon because I kind of feel like they know that's right there among the people that
Yeah.
have made them what they are.
Mhm.
But so being in Nashville, right, we see country music stars all the
Yeah.
time. I mean, I remember years ago seeing Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman in Starbucks in Green Hills several times, seeing him in Whole Foods, but I never once went up to him. I mean, he was kind of bashful even.
Mhm.
I remember like the barista saying, "I like your songs," and he was just like, "Thanks." You know, they just want to be normal people too.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, you just kind of have to remember that. Like,
Mhm.
I remember last year going live with Prof Joe, and I was a nervous wreck.
Mhm.
Um, and so then I got to meet her face to face at CrimeCon
Yeah.
last month in Vegas. And I mean, I spent probably 8 hours with her. And now I'm like,
Mhm.
she's a girl just like you and me.
Yeah.
And it's it does make a difference that when you just kind of start thinking about them that way, like
Yeah, I would definitely fangirl over Prof. Joe because she
she's
is
cool.
so smart. She is so intelligent. She knows
Mhm.
everything. If somebody has a question, she can answer it. I'm like, wow.
I know.
So,
And that was what was cool. Like we would just sit there and like talk that stuff. But I told her, I said, "Hey," when we were texting, I said, "Just so you know, because when you're here, I mean, people are gonna recognize you and you're gonna get stopped." And she's like, "What?" And she did. She did.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a fun question.
Okay.
If you could rewind time
Mm.
and start your channel 10 years ago, or ever how long, is there any cases, has there ever been any cases that would be like a dream case that you would love to go back and cover, and if so, what are they?
Well, I don't know that I would dream to cover it, but what started my, I guess I don't want to call it an obsession, but just like fascination, the OJ trial, right? So I was in college
Yeah.
and, I remember watching that and I remember the OJ chase. I was home
Sure.
from college that summer.
Yeah.
And, I just remember him driving around like 35 miles an hour in that Bronco with the
Mhm.
hazards and everything, and I was just kind of fascinated with it. Um, so that one would be I think anything that involves children is really hard for me. I mean, I remember cases like Susan Smith in
Yeah.
South Carolina. Um, but yeah, the OJ one, I think about it, if YouTubers were today what they were, could have been back then, you know
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That might have turned out very differently
Mhm.
because yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
I watched it from start to finish. Like
Mhm.
me and my friend from church, um, if I had to go somewhere, my son was little. He was like 2 then. And if I had to go somewhere, when I got home, I would say, Joyce, what happened? I'd call her and say, Joyce, what happened today? And she would tell me, and vice versa. And that thing went on for like 9 months or nine and a half months.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
the longest trial ever. But,
Yeah.
so we both would watch it and report to each other, like, oh my God, can you believe it? But I do think it would turn out different too. You know what case that I really couldn't get enough of either is the Jodi Arias case. That
Oh,
girl is like wild.
when she did the headstand in the interrogation room or she did something.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love
I
watching the
mean,
interrogations. Those
yeah,
are some of my
she is
favorite.
like crazy. And then
Oh,
to think that she can get away with it, that's crazy. So,
mhm. Um,
criminals are just, they're stupid.
and yeah, and I'll tell you, the Lacey Peterson case.
Yeah.
So that one, so I think I had just had my son because that was 2002. And so I think I just really identified with it because, there she had lost Connor and obviously, I mean, they were killed and you just thinking, God, I mean, that's like my age and that's the same, a little boy and that case. But I'm going to cover that book coming up in a book club too.
Wow. Yeah, I
Her
want to join
mom.
you. I want to do the book club thing. I think that, I saw it the other day and I was like,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's like I just don't read enough because, yeah, you read at work and then
Yeah.
I get home into YouTube. I mean, when am I going to read?
Yeah.
But, it like reading Ruth Markel's book again and knowing I gotta present it or go through it with people, and here I've got the extreme punishment right here. This is what we're working on now, and it does it helps to break it up, I think, in
Mhm.
chapters. It just
Yeah.
makes it a little less intimidating because it's a thick book,
Yeah.
but it is good. But then once I start reading, I'm like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
I did reach out to Stephen Epstein, the author of this one, last year and asked him, and he was like, no,
Mhm.
I'm going to decline. I was like, well, you're going to regret that.
I love that though. I think that is something different that I'm not seeing any other YouTubers do that, do a book club. So
Yeah, it's just a way to because some people when somebody wrote yesterday, they're like, "Do you cover anything else besides the Dan Markel case?" Yeah, I
yeah.
do. I mean, I guess, you're seeing my feed for whatever reason, but
Mhm.
I do
Yeah.
but this one is just I mean, like even Ruth says, she's like, "It's got all the things, right? It's got all the things." It is like a true crime fanatics,
Mhm.
like it's
Yeah.
got every little pinpoint of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you something before I let you go. Why have you not covered Mackenzie Shirilla? Because that, like, everybody's on that, like a duck on a
Yeah.
June bug. Like, I mean, everybody's on that. So,
Yeah, I know. And it is wild because, she was convicted like 2 years ago, but then this Netflix documentary came out.
yeah.
And at first I was like, I am not gonna watch that. And then I researched and I found that they weren't getting any money for it. So I was like, okay. Because
Mhm.
if it was benefiting them, I was gonna be really mad.
Yeah.
And so I watched it and I just like I would listen to the jail calls and I did some little like snippets of her jail calls. I mean, I just think it's disgusting.
Mhm.
Um, but I just kind of had enough of it.
Yeah. You know what? How I feel about that? This is how I feel, which I'm totally obsessed with. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I do watch
Oh yeah.
like Moms for Justice. Like, I really like her coverage of it. But
Uh-huh.
I will say this, and I kind of wondered if the reason you weren't covering it is because the I think she's right now in jail somewhere going, oh, they're listening to me. And I think she's loving this. I think she's
Oh,
really loving this attention.
I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. And I thought and before I even asked you that question, I thought, I bet that's why you're not covering it, is to keep from giving her that like negative attention that she would view as positive,
Yeah.
because it's keeping her
Exactly.
name out there. And that's what she wants. She wants attention no matter how she
Mhm.
gets it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Like the people I would like to talk to, not Damien's family, the other boy, see, um,
Davion.
Davion. I mean,
Yeah.
those parents that adopted him,
Yeah.
like, listening to their interview in the crash and seeing, like, after the press conference, and I'm like, they're like me.
Mhm.
I would love to talk to them. Now that's something that I would love to talk to,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they're doing that.
Yeah.
I
You should
just
reach out and try. At least try,
Mhm. Yeah, I know that, Dom's sister, she was doing tons of things, but that
Mhm.
other boy, I just feel like he gets so overlooked.
I know. I know.
Davian.
I think so
Yeah.
too. Even like his name rarely gets mentioned.
Mhm.
It's usually just Dom.
Again, clicks,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But that Mackenzie Shirella, even at CrimeCon, I was talking with another creator, and he was like, "Yeah, that's what I'm covering right now." And
Yeah.
there's plenty of stuff out there,
Yeah. There is.
unfortunately, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, listen. What are your goals for the year? For like a year, that's what's your
That's a good question.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
what do you hope will happen with your channel before the end of the year?
yeah. I would love to hit 15,000 subs.
I think you'll do it. I mean, I
Yeah,
think you'll do it. You're growing so fast. I believe
thanks.
you'll do it. So,
Thanks. And then, if it starts going even faster, then I'll move it up. But I like to set incremental goals. I
mhm.
think it's really important. Um, and just to continue to grow my skills in
Yeah.
like YouTube and figuring out, they keep changing like the algorithm and it's, is
Mhm.
it best to make a 20-minute video or it used to be like the sweet spot was an 8-minute video. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons I grew fast was I started out making lots of the shorts, the little,
Really? Wow.
mhm. And so it just like people just liked them. And
Mhm.
and then I'm like, okay, and then you want more, you got to do live. And so it's just figuring out what all I need to be doing. But it is a lot because you got to post, you got to do all these different things. But
You know what? I never watch shorts. I hate shorts. they come in my news feed or my feed. I don't
Hmm.
even click on, I don't know why. I just hate shorts. I
But
would rather watch a video because a short, I'm like, I'm not getting the whole thing. I don't want the
right.
whole thing.
I kind of look at it like it's a commercial.
Hmm.
And so it's a commercial about, something else like, hey, I'm going to go live tonight and this is what it is. Or if you want to see more, watch the video. But you'll notice if you go on YouTube, they're pushing the shorts more, like
Hmm.
when you see your feed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I just don't like that. I don't know why. I just don't, because I'm like, because
because
I
it's
always
like
think, well,
Instagram or something else.
yeah, if there's a short, there has to be a video somewhere. I want to watch the video. I want to know
Yeah.
the whole story, not just an advertisement for it. So, but
Yeah.
listen,
What's
thank
your
you so
goal?
much.
Oh, sorry. I
But
didn't
no, go
mean.
ahead.
What's your goal with your show?
Well, with my show, I don't know. I'm just out here just fluttering around like a butterfly.
Oh, I think it's great.
I really don't have one because I just do this for fun. I don't know. Well, I will tell you what my goal is. I actually wrote a reboot for Knots Landing last year. I wrote a whole entire, Donna Mills called it. You've heard of Donna Mills, right? She played
Oh,
Epic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I gave it to her, Michelle Lee, and Joan Van Ark last year in Dallas at the South Fork Experience. And that she called it a Bible, and they've talked about it 3 times on their podcast, and they keep asking all these guests, like Alec Baldwin wants to come back if it gets remade. That's why I went to Santa Monica. I went out there and I took the reboot to Paramount Studios, Warner Brothers, and dropped it off. And so I'm like, it's in God's hands now. But that's my goal, is to ultimately get a reboot of Knots Landing going. But if that doesn't happen, then I'm just trying to make it through school, get my PhD, because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where do you
Yeah,
go
I,
to school? Where do you go?
Liberty University online.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that school. I've been going there since January of 2018, but I had to stop in 23 because my husband got really sick and then he passed away in 24. So
Sorry.
I've had all that time and I just went back in January. So anyway, but yeah, listen, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so
Yeah.
much fun, and I
Well,
just want you
thank
to
you
know
for inviting me.
I really love your channel. I just love your personality. I love your warmth. You have a warmth about you and a kindness. And
Thank
like I
you.
said, that soothing voice that I just love. So, yeah,
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm very flattered. So thank you very,
we're
very
going to put
much.
we're going to put your links on the screen, and I'll advertise it on all social media and stuff like that. So, but I appreciate it. But yeah, hang around and I'll be right back. Thank you guys for watching today. I know if you're a true crime lover, then you're going to love Leslie B's channel. We're going to have her links on the screen at the end of the show. So please go and subscribe to her and catch a live, and drop a comment in there. Hey, I saw you on the Christy Adams Show, and I love you too. And become a member of her channel. You'll love it because she is so much fun, and she really does care about the victims and their families. So tune in again next week for another exciting episode. And remember to always dream big, because big dreams do come true.